Welcome to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers with Linda Prio. Will it be possible to remain in my home as I age? Do I feel safe in my home? How do I figure out how much support I will need when my health needs start to change? What if I decide to move into a community instead? Which community will meet my needs now and in the future? Who will play a role in helping me with decision making? Do you ask yourself these same questions? Aging in Place Strategies and Answers can help you gain practical knowledge that will help you create your own Aging in Place roadmap. If you are already a care partner, a power of attorney, or in crisis mode with your Aging in Place strategy, you will learn what you need to know that you don't know. For over 20 years, I have been marketing Aging in Place services to clients and educating families and healthcare professionals in how to put aging in place strategies into place. When you utilize aging in place, you are allowed to choose where you want to live and make those decisions so that you can retain your quality of life. Hi, listeners. Welcome back to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers. I have a special guest for you today, and she is another professional resource that could be helpful to you. And you don't have to be a senior adult to be using her services. Cynthia is a daily money manager, and she, like I said, is a professional who can help ensure that your bills are paid. Well, she uses your money to pay your bills. She doesn't pay them out of her funds. She can help ensure that the legal and financial strategies that you have selected and chosen are actually being followed and are put in place. She can help you maintain your financial well-being at any stage of life, which is one thing that we want to do. We want to live well, and not having money issues and not feeling like you're in control is really a difficult thing. And I will be honest with you, there are many people who call and are looking for these kinds of services. So I'm thankful that Cynthia is one of those daily money managers who helps you to focus on life and living it well. I think it's also helpful for seniors who may not have somebody who they can count on or trust, because having a money manager can help you be free from financial abuse. And so, because I know that exists, I would just want to share that information as well. So my guest today is Cynthia Hoffman. She has a bachelor's degree in accounting, and she has an MBA from Washington University in business. And then she worked as a CPA for a big 8 firm, and then she helped for a little bit, and then she helped 7-Up executives with their relocations from start to finish. And then she raised a family, and then I understand that you also helped a not-for-profit get back on track and back in profitability. So then she decided to become a daily money manager. So I want you to say hello to my listeners, Cynthia. And then what was the push? Why the change? Because obviously you were successful in that not-for-profit, but what pushed you in this direction?
Awesome. Well, yeah. Hello, everyone. First of all, Linda, I want to thank you for inviting me to be on your wonderful series.
Thank
This
you.
really an amazing podcast. I looked up, you've got over 80 podcasts,
I
which
have.
is a real accomplishment, and they're full of resources and support for older adults in our region and beyond. It's really
Absolutely.
amazing work. And so thank you for that effort. I enjoyed Michelle Perry, Getting Your Ducks in a Row. I think that's a wonderful program she has. And of course, I've done referrals to Erin Dwyer Bush at with her Driving with Dignity program. I think that's fabulous. And done a little work with Dan Flynn at Neptune Society and probably a
Yes.
few more people. So congratulations on that. That's really awesome. It's really
Thank
awesome.
you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
really appreciate that. I feel, it's my passion and my mission that when you're helping people, whether it's your family member or others that you might know, it's good to have resources. It takes the fear and anxiety out when you have the education that you need. So that's what we're here today to do, to share another great resource that can be very helpful to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did all those things that you talked about, and then I sort of retired, I guess you would say.
Okay.
COVID came along, and I was doing the COVID thing like we all were. And a friend of a friend who's a financial advisor called me up, and she said, I hear you're doing things to help older people. And I was involved in a situation in Gasconade County as a sort of a court-appointed advocate for an older lady who needed just help to stay in her home. And it was an interesting little sideline, one of those little projects you pick up, just kind of collect people in life. It's always kind of fun.
Yes.
So, anyway, I've seen over the years how overwhelming things can be for friends and family, and my own family close up. I've had handled a few trusts, had to go to court for probate and things like that. So I've had some experience in those areas, along with all my financial background. And so, she called and she said, this is something you could help with. And I was like, well, yes, I can, but I don't have a corporate company. I don't have insurance. I feel like if I'm going to do this, I want to do it carefully and professionally.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
appreciate that about you. And I think that's important for our listeners to hear. So I'm going to just stop right there. It's really important that you know who you're working with, because when it comes to money, I found this out at Continuum, working there, and it's like, we don't, as care managers, we're not in charge of somebody's money. We don't have that level of insurance. So that would be something we have to farm out. So just so you know, that's a big thing, people. So go ahead.
Yeah, huge, huge thing. And so the first thing I did was I became a CSA, a
Hmm.
certified senior advisor. And that's a credential that you can get. You take a course, you take a test, you become connected with a lot of resources across the country. And then it was like, okay, I'm a certified senior advisor, but what am I going to do? What do I
Yes.
want to do? So there are insurance people that are part of that group. There are financial planners, CPAs, all kinds of, aging care, life care managers. So care managers are part of the group. So of course I looked at my background, and what is my background? It's financial. And I love it. I'm a financial person. I've always managed our own finances at home. I used to manage all of our investments. And I will say that as a daily money manager, I do not touch the investments. That is not in my wheelhouse. But I saw, like, even from my own parents, how overwhelming that could be. And then, I've dealt with some very messy estates. I had a brother that died very suddenly. So, I have all this experience. I'm like, okay, I think I'm going to be something in that area. And I remembered years ago, I'd heard about the American Association of Daily Money Managers. Three
Yes.
words you don't put together naturally, but I couldn't really remember the three words. And so somehow I did a little Googling and I found the association. They started 27 years ago. It's professionalized the business of helping people with their daily money management, and we'll
Hmm.
talk about that a little more. But I found that, and then I realized that I fit really well with these people. I mean, I know a lot of daily money managers across the country now, and they're my gang. You know, they're
Good.
they're, they're my gang. So I became a daily money manager. I met with a lawyer, put all that stuff together, and I got the insurance I needed and opened my doors. And it's been great. It's been a really we sometimes come into people's lives when they're in crisis, and we can help them. And it just feels, very good to be able to provide service to people in a way that gives them comfort and gives them security. Really, really, important to have that kind of secure and organized financial life, so they can really focus on living, as I say, their best life, which is why we named it Best Life. We're not a franchise. We are right now three daily money managers, and but we'll talk a little bit more about the association if you want. But I love the fact that now we're growing in the St. Louis area, that there are other daily money managers now in this area as well, because there is such a demand.
Such a demand for this, and so good that you are able to meet with somebody and then develop that level of trust. But I know when I met you, I thought she's a professional. I could tell that you are a professional and that you know how to talk to people. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. We've got some questions for Cynthia because I'd like for you to help my listeners learn what a daily money manager does and why they're so helpful to not only seniors who are wanting to just put this aside and let somebody else have the stress of it, or maybe they're starting to not do it as well as they used to and it's making them nervous, but also just busy people. Now, a word from our sponsor.
Are you looking for resources on senior living? Check out guideforseniorliving.com for our free online senior resource guide to find senior housing, care, and community connections. Start searching now at guide4 seniorliving.com. That's guideforseniorliving.com to find the contact information for senior housing, care, and community connections.
Now let's return to the podcast. Right? So what do you guys do? And why are you so helpful? Give us some ideas.
Well, let me first start with the association so people understand what it means to be a professional daily money manager, because there are many people out there who just work with their own families and, they help their parents just like I did. And
Yes.
that's great. But there comes a time potentially where you need someone who you can trust that, maybe your family is busy. They're sandwich gen, they've got lots going on. Maybe there's an estate they're trying to manage and they're trying to caregive for a family
Mm-hmm.
member or
Yes.
multiple family members. In our
Mm-hmm.
world now, it's, we've gone from this family tree that goes from, here down to lots of people at the base to, to more of a chimney where, or even sort of a reverse chimney where there's lots of people up here and fewer children to manage the day to day
Correct.
of their parents.
Good point.
So being a professional daily money manager, I'm a member of an association and I am background checked every 2 years. So they run a background check on me to make sure there's nothing out there that looks bad.
Yes.
I carry professional liability insurance. So just like a lawyer or a CPA, I have insurance for errors and omissions. And as part of an association, I agree to live up to a code of ethics
Mm-hmm.
and standards of practice that require me to I do not take referral fees.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to always work as a fiduciary, and that's a kind of a loaded word these days, but I try to always essentially work in my client's best interest.
Yes.
So even when I make referrals, I'm not referring them to just my buddies or people who are going to give me any kind of commission. I'm usually giving my clients 2 or 3 of what I consider vetted resources that they can go to and learn about, the differences between services, and then they can choose who they feel comfortable working with. So that's the association and sort of the standards of practice and code of ethics. Our whole goal is to give people peace of mind with their money and
Mm-hmm.
make sure we're doing that in a way that we've really got, professional wherewithal behind that. That they know that when they come to us, they're working at a different level.
Yes.
So we do work with a wide variety of clients. Many of our clients are older adults. Many times we're working with them and their children if they choose to have us coordinate.
Okay.
So they know that their son or daughter have heavy duty careers and maybe have several children who are in multiple sports, all the things that you think about. And they don't want to burden their children. And they may or may not want them to know how much money they have or what problems they're having. And so it's a confidential service. We're, highly confidential. We don't share with anybody that they don't want us to share with. We don't tell any tales on them. What they choose to do with their money is private. And so
Right.
that's the other piece of being professional and working with a professional is they know that they're not going to have someone, tell tales about them and let their son or daughter know that they're, waffling away the family heirlooms or whatever. It's their life. We just are coming alongside them. And I use that word a lot. We are
Mm-hmm.
not there to make any decisions for people. We are there to come alongside them and help them figure out the best answers for them. So
Yes, while running the numbers and giving them good resources in order to make those decisions.
yeah, yeah. So we also can some daily money managers will work with businesses and things, but we also work with, people who are busy executives, or we have a few physicians that we work with that are really busy and they need help with all kinds of things. Maybe they need help with a little money management, or maybe they have a parent. One case, we have a parent here, and
Yes.
we've helped them build a whole team of people here, not only to take care of the parent, but there's a conservatorship he's got to manage, and there's a trust he has to manage, and there's a whole bunch of moving parts. And that's my jam. I'm as the founder, I'm a puzzle solver. I like to pull those things together for people. And when you're a very busy executive or a physician like that, you just have to find the right people that you can trust to take care of things. So
Absolutely.
in many ways, we are personal assistants like that too. So we might not only manage money or do the money, but the one thing I do want to say before I go too much further is what we are not.
Okay.
So we are not financial advisors. We
No.
don't touch the big money. We really love having that safe over with either an advisor or with a company like a Fidelity or Vanguard, where we're not doing anything with that money. They're just funding like a feeder account.
Hmm.
Um, we're not lawyers or insurance people. We always go to experts. We may know a lot about many things. I was a CPA, but I'm not going to tell people how to do their taxes. I know a lot about those things. I know enough to tell you, oh, you're going to do some big donations this year. Let's go talk to your tax accountant about the best way to do that.
Yes.
How are you situated financially? Let's go talk to your financial advisor. But I am not those things. I am not a care manager.
No.
So, I don't do the healthcare and the psychosocial, but I work with all of these people. I work with all of these people in many cases with the client's permission to help them pull their lives together. Many times, we will come in and they haven't done anything with their estate planning in a while. And when you look at that with them, it's like, well, so where is this person who's going to be your trustee or your power of attorney? And are they still able to function in that role? And so all those questions become things that we have to solve, problems that we have to organize and figure out the solution for. So
Yes.
those are the things that's where we start is we start trying to pull your life together and make it easy.
Wonderful. And then, like you said, you're not the people doing the financial planning. You're not the people doing the
Right.
legal, but you are, like you said, there's an account that's created that the monies come into, and then you can help create a budget for
Mhm.
people if that's what they need. I remember one story Cynthia told me about a lady that she was helping, and they were watching the budget because she was in danger of running out of money and just needed to have the numbers in order to make the right decisions about her future. And so that's indispensable because you have a professional who knows what those costs are and then knows how to put that budget together, where somebody who's in the midst of that turmoil and possibly not feeling well can't find the forest from the trees, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so you can reconcile accounts. You can, do you do anything with medical bills? Are you able to help? Because I know a lot of times I used to go in people's houses and they had stacks
Yeah.
of medical bills. And, when you're not feeling well, you don't really feel like doing that. Listeners, do you need a speaker for your group? Or perhaps you would like to know how to access my YouTube channels? Please check out my website, seniorsupportstrategies.com. On the website, you will even find more details about how to get a personal consultation. Thanks for listening.
Well, and this is something I learned many years ago. I had an uncle who my aunt had Alzheimer's, and she was still in the home, and he was overwhelmed. And so I would just go out every couple of weeks or so and help him go through his bills, and he would just pay the bills when they came, the medical bills. He'd just pay them. And I started looking at them and I said, this is supposed to be reimbursed by your insurance company. And so suddenly we were getting checks back because we were calling them and saying, he shouldn't have paid this.
Right.
And he was like, wow, he didn't know that you have to match things up and make sure before you pay the bill that it's really due. So those are the things I love. But one of the simplest things that we do that people think it's simple, and it sounds very simple. I say we do mail management and bill pay.
Okay.
So many people are like, okay, we've put all our bills on auto pay. Everything's
Yes.
cool. I don't have to worry about that. That's one side of it. But the other side is there's all the mail that comes in. And
Yes.
and many times, even with myself, I have to look at something twice to see if it's real or not. So we help people get through their mail because sometimes there's a question about what is this? And well, I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. This is mind blowing to me, but it happened. I had a wonderful client. I have a wonderful client, and something came in the mail, and it was like, well, what is this? And it was a health savings plan. And I was like, do you have a Well, I don't know. I don't know if I have a health savings plan. We found out that his former employer, and he had been retired for probably 10 years, had a health savings plan that they were funding every month as a retirement benefit. I think there
Wow.
was like $25,000 there that had just built up, and he could only go back a year. But he had a bunch of medical expenses, and he could get his insurance and his social security reimbursed. It was, we spent we got that $25,000 back, I think, within a year. But he didn't even know that he had that. And it
Right.
continues every month. It keeps putting more money in. So every
Wow.
quarter now we go in and we get that money back for him because there's always health insurance, insurance bills and things, and Medicare bills. You always pay
Right.
that $185 a month to Medicare. So, it, but again, things come in the mail that are important, and it's hard sometimes to distinguish from junk mail and important mail. Many people get solicitations that look like invoices. So they've ordered something from somewhere before, and suddenly they're on this solicitation, and they get something that looks like an invoice, but it's really not. It's really a solicitation. But if they send them some money, they'll send them something back, and then
Yes.
you get into this cycle of, well, I had one client. She had a whole bunch of subscriptions for books. And there were two or three subscriptions, and it became overwhelming. Suddenly, all these books are coming in, and not enough time to read them. So, we sat down and said, what do you really want? And so we slimmed things down to what she wanted. But sometimes they keep coming. And so if you make one little mistake and send a check off, you're on another subscription plan. So,
Exactly. Oh, it's
yeah,
so nice, and
subscriptions are.
it is reassuring. But those things happen every single day. I opened a piece of mail yesterday, and I thought, I know this is junk, but I just had to open it anyway. And sure enough, it was a Medicare Advantage.
Solicitation.
But it looked like I was supposed to do something with it.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I threw it away because I knew I wasn't supposed to. But yes, you're right. Those things are so challenging, and they're so sneaky nowadays. One of our colleague friends, Cynthia and myself, she said, I am nowhere near AARP age, but she said somehow I got on a list for senior insurance. And she said, I'm going to tell you one thing. She said, I am getting inundated every day with phone calls, 15 phone calls a day minimum is what she is getting from people soliciting from her. And you know yourself, if you're not well and you get nervous, and then it just seems like one big scary moment. And so thank you for all you do to kind of calm that, or at least they have somebody to call and they know that's coming in. Just put it aside in the pile. I'll be there at your appointment and we'll go through it then. No worries. Don't think about it now. I will be coming to help you with that.
Well,
Well,
and we get off that topic, just because, and then I know we're doing a caregiver tip eventually, but caregiver tip here: if your family member, if you have an older adult and that you're kind of helping, um, and they'll let you sign up for informed delivery, you can see what's coming through their mail, so you don't miss something.
okay.
It's a very cool little thing that you're paying for in your postal service, whatever we pay, all those stamps we spend out there. They provide this service as a free service to anyone who wants to sign up for it. And I get it in my post office, in my mailbox. I get a little summary of everything that's going to show up that day, so I don't miss something.
Yeah. Well, my friend signed up for it somehow and she said it's great, but she didn't even know she signed up for it. So that is good. It's good for us to
But
know.
beyond the mail, you also have now email. And I was with a client the other day, just kind of a late night visit. I was just kind of checking in and getting some checks signed. And he says, this phone is driving me crazy. And, I said, well, can I look at your phone? He was getting text messages from our fun little AT&T people. And it said, you've used 1 gigabyte of data. Thank you very much, $15. And he had like 20 of these messages. And I'm like, oh, something's really wrong here because they don't use data. Well, we called AT&T and put him on an unlimited plan, first of all. But we said, they don't use data. They have never used data. But all of a sudden they're using data. Well, we found out that his spouse her phone was eating data,
Oh,
literally
wow.
eating data. And so, it's like, unless someone is helping you or unless you feel comfortable complaining to someone, that may go on for a long time. And then if you're just auto paying those bills, you may miss it. So yeah,
Yes.
we could go on with many examples, but that's essentially the kinds of things that we kind of, that's our jam. We kind
Yeah.
of like helping people through these things.
Yeah. So, some of it just happens, and then some of it we make it happen. And then sometimes it's just an issue, right, with somebody. So I know that this can be a very difficult conversation unless you say it's like a busy professional who understands that they've got a lot on their plate. They need to turn something over. Somebody has gotten in trouble with their finances and is now looking for a solution for maybe an adult child or even a senior. So, what are some signs that you look for when you are talking with family members? Maybe some questions you might be asking, or lawyers or financial planners. What are some things we should be looking for and noticing, especially this time of the year when you're more likely to see your senior aging adult? Can you help us with that?
Well, I guess first of all, it's important to understand that even someone who is in good shape cognitively, as you age, there is some cognitive decline that increases the risk of financial fraud and things of that, just
Hmm.
naturally. And the other thing to know is that, like, if you're working with someone who is not the financial spouse, like say the financial spouse is ill or passes away,
Yes.
the non-financial spouse doesn't have the tracks in their brain for the finances. So
Yes.
not only is it overwhelming, it's also kind of not in their wheelhouse. And
Yes.
so it can be very, very confusing. So, the most important thing is that to understand is that, literally 1 in 5 older adults will experience some form of financial exploitation. And the numbers I hear of the average dollar amount is like $35,000.
It's a
Like,
yeah.
it's much more important for someone to be in your life to help kind of keep an eye on things, even if it's just from a remote situation. But I would say the most important things to look for are those piles of unopened mail,
Hmm.
piles of bills. I had one client that when I started working with them, they had their electricity turned off. And these were people living in a very nice, situation. There was no reason, they just could not keep up with, they were going on their phone and paying the bill. And that in itself is kind of like, okay, it's great that you have it set up, but they just weren't able to stay on top of it.
Yes.
So if they have confusion about banking and they're trying to reconcile a bank account, but they don't have all the pieces. So now you have everything, your checks that you write, you have your automatic transactions, you have maybe your social security's coming in automatically. So it's not easy anymore to balance a checkbook in the old paper way that we always did.
Yes, I
You want to
know.
keep track of your checks, but it's not, you can't go to your checkbook anymore and see what's really there.
Yes.
And you can't go to your bank either because you don't know what's coming and going out. So
Yes.
it is, yes, it's convenient and we love all this new technology, but when you're not able to understand it or deal with it, it's a red flag. It's something that you want to be thinking about. So this
Hmm.
missed payments, late fees. I had a client that I started with, and we were looking back at some old bank statements. He had like $1,000 of late fees.
Yes.
It was too late to go back. It had been, quite a substantial period before that. But it was like, if I had been in the middle of it, I would have gone straight to the bank and saying, this isn't going to work. We are not going to get charged $1,000 of late fees.
Right. Right.
You guys are going to have to help with this because part of this is, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Maybe the bank should have called him and just said, hey, what's the problem? But that's not their job. That's
Right.
not what banks do. Increasing credit card debt. Sometimes people get in a situation where they don't always pay the credit card off. And of course, we know what interest rates are like there. So they're paying,
Yes.
or maybe they're using an ATM card and they're going to some place that charges them fees all the time. You can
Right.
get feed to death. Even young adults can get feed to death if they don't pay attention to fees.
Yes.
And then all those donations. We have one wonderful lady who's very generous, and she, of course, gave to all these little charities little amounts of money, and that's all her mail was charitable solicitations. And of course, they want to be generous. Many older adults get to a point in their life where it's
Mhm.
like, I've had financial success. I'm very comfortable. I want to be generous. And so again, we don't tell them what not to do. We don't tell them they can't do that. We just point out that, maybe you should look at what's your favorite charity. Let's give to somewhere where it makes a difference and where the money is going to really make a difference. And you've vetted that charity a little bit.
Yes.
Because there are all kinds of ways to vet that charity, the charities. And sometimes those mail solicitations are not the way.
Have you
Um,
been in a situation, I'll just kind of throw this out at you. Have you been in a situation where you've seen the signs and you've had to have that conversation and go there? Are they pretty open and accepting, or have you had somebody like, no, I'm managing and get out of here?
Well, usually by the time we're involved, there's a level of trust that develops fairly quickly.
Good,
We typically our referral sources are usually people that are already trusted in their life.
good.
So we kind of come with a little bit of an understanding that they wouldn't refer us if we weren't trusted already. But there's still that period of time where they have to get comfortable. So, for example, I had one client that we came on board. She just wanted to write checks. She wanted me to take deposits to the bank. So she was still getting checks. And we worked with her financial advisor. We got to know her really well. And little by little by little, she allowed us to put all of her accounts, which she only had a few. I mean, we have a feeder account essentially and a credit card. So just really two accounts. We hook them up to our what we call Quicken, which is like a QuickBooks accounting program, but it's like a checkbook.
Right,
It's for people, it's for normal people, not for businesses. And so it doesn't cost our clients anything because we have our own subscription, but we can see what's coming and going in their accounts. It's an aggregator. And
right.
so we get to see, something's coming through accounts, and we can actually put little flags on it saying, let me know if there's something over X amount of dollars that's going through the account. And so we will generally check in, once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks, just to keep an eye on what their spending is like. And so I had a client the other day, actually the same client. We write very few checks now for her, which is great. We don't like checks. We're not a big fan of checks.
Mhm.
We'd rather do, some things pay in different ways. Because your check actually has everything you need to know about somebody. It has your bank routing number and your bank account number and your name and address. And, some people put their phone numbers on there. That's
That's a
personally
lot of
valuable
information.
information. Yes. And all it
Yes.
takes is a few more pieces like your birth date and a few other little clues. And suddenly you've got a situation that could be fraud or scams. So anyway, she finally got to the point where we put everything on, auto pay. We put things and we monitor the cash flow. And when she needs cash, we call her financial advisor. She's looking at here's where we are, here's what needs to be sent, and they send money to her. We never do it the other way around. We don't want to
Right,
touch the
right.
money. So we have the professionals move the money. And it's worked out really well for her, but she had a few charges that came through. She typically has an Amazon charge like once a month, but sometimes the care manager will do some purchases for her. And so we had a couple things that came through, and suddenly I was looking more deeply. I was like, this is an Amazon Prime Video charge. That is not her. And
Yes,
so I was on
right.
the phone with her and her care manager, and I said, okay, so do we know if this was maybe your son came to visit? And I don't know how that would happen, but maybe the wires got crossed, but we discovered, it was fraud. And so we're on the phone calling and canceling her credit card and getting her back to square zero. And so, but there's fraud paperwork to fill out. So they sent her fraud paperwork. We had to list out all the pieces that were fraud and send it back to them. You can't just stop there. You really have to say this really was fraud, and then they will credit it back to your credit card. But
Okay.
if and this happened to not a client, but someone who was talking with us and consulting with us about the situation. And they said, well, what happened last year was my husband got sick and then I got sick. And then everything was kind of chaotic for a while. And 6 months later, I was looking through my bank account statements and I realized that somebody had taken one of our checks. They had washed the check. They had
Yes,
changed the number to $5,000. My signature was still on the check because they didn't wash that part of the check.
right.
I had run it through the bank account. 6 months later, that's money gone.
Yes,
I mean, horrified. They were horrified,
of
but
course.
and they were financial. I mean, they had a financial background. They were not your normal Joe. They were financial people. And so, it's horrible to think that you just threw away $5,000, but it's so easy to do that if you have, like, essentially, you and I talked, we were talking about having that one account that we work with. We call that a feeder account. And we're
Yes,
going to try to keep as the least amount of money we can keep in there so that it's protected. And so
yes,
we would have caught that. We would have caught that probably within 2 weeks. We would have seen that. We would have said, what is this for? Again, we're not making judgments. You can write a check for anything you want to do.
right.
Usually when it's a chunk of money, we're asking them to call us and so we can cash flow. If there's not enough money, we make sure there's cash flow in there.
Exactly. There's
If they
multiple
want to write
reasons
checks
why
to
you would
their
check it.
kids, yeah, if they want to gift to their kids, it's like, just tell us and let's talk to your financial advisor and have them send that chunk of money so that we're not having, 50 to $100,000 sitting in that account just waiting for a scammer to walk through.
Absolutely. So the
So,
fraud alert is such a big piece of it too.
mhm, yeah.
So what might be some questions you might ask as you're feeling your way through with a client? What would that be? Some of the questions that you might ask if I was going to be your client
Yeah.
and I had you in, and of course my adult children thought it was a good idea.
Well, we would initially, what we do is an initial consult, like on the phone, just to see if
Uh-huh.
you've had a good fit. And, we want to know a bit about your family, of course. We want to know a bit about how you're structured. Do you have a lawyer? How, what is your situation like? And, give us a sense of, kind of what we're looking at here. What's your reason for calling us? And then, we're going to, as we move forward, and they might ask us to come in and do an actual, like, consult in the home.
Hmm.
And so at that point, we'll say, let's talk about the real numbers. Give us an idea of, how much goes in, how much goes out, what's your income? And, are you having any trouble with matching income and outflow? Are there assets that someone else is managing? We don't usually look at those assets. We don't even need to know what's going on there. We just need to know, like, is there enough cash flow to manage this? And, make sure that you're okay. We'll talk to the financial advisor. What do I need to know so that everything is taken care of on my end of the world? I don't need to know how you're invested. I don't need to know the total amount of your investments. I just need to know ballpark, where are we?
Yes.
And so we're going to want to look at, how many bank accounts do you have open? How many
Hmm.
credit cards do you have? All the things that the essentials of, if you have multiple bank accounts, what's that for? Is there a reason behind these? And we're
Yes.
always looking at people who, you want to simplify.
Yes.
In when I was growing up, it was all like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You want to have money in bank, CDs in different banks, and many of our older adults, particularly that we meet, they do. They have a CD here and a CD there and a couple over here, and now you really want those consolidated.
Hmm.
Want to
Hmm.
find a place that's going to take that, and CDs don't make you a lot of money, so maybe you're better off using a Fidelity or a financial advisor and putting your money in a money market that makes you, almost 4% right now, a little under 4%.
Right.
It's better than that a CD will get you, and it's also money you can access in a hurry if you need something. So we will help clients understand the necessity for pulling their money together and then keeping that little pile of money safe.
Hmm.
Easier to do that if you have it all in one place. CDs have their place. People sometimes use CDs for reasons. And,
Yes.
again, everyone is different, which is why we are very concierge. We're not gonna rearrange your financial life. We're going to help you understand why it might be appropriate to do that. And again, it's your choice. We'll go to 5 different banks when your CDs roll over and help you roll them over if you need us to do that. But it might be simpler. Like, I have a client, she had CDs in a little bank in New York.
Uh-huh.
And it was very sentimental. It was something that her parents had given her, and
Yes.
they just sent us statements every 3 months, and you could see the little bitty amount of interest that came in.
Yes.
And we worked with this client for a couple of years, and she just wasn't ready to deal with that. She wasn't ready to let that go.
No.
And then finally, something changed in her world that she just decided it was time. Her financial advisor encouraged her to let it go, encouraged her because she said, we can make money. it was not a huge amount of money, but it was a little chunk of change that would have been nice to make money off of. And
Uh-huh.
so her nephew actually was her co-trustee and her co-everything, her co-conspirator, I will. Yeah, he was, he was her person and he lived in New York and he kind of took that and took care of it and made it all happen and then sent it to her financial advisor to invest for her. But again, we didn't push the boat on that. That's not our job. Our job is to work with our client, have them, make sure it's brought up once in a while. You sure you still want to do this? And then when they're ready, we'll help them make that happen.
Yes. And I will just say that I was sitting in a financial planning meeting and I had that same thought, Cynthia, is that the financial planner, their job is to build wealth and plan investments and make sure that you have the funds that you need, that you can fund your lifestyle. And then it's really up to the individual to manage how they're going to do that. But that can be overwhelming at some point in your life. So it's nice to know, people, that there is somebody that you can trust. And while Cynthia is local to our St. Louis market, she does belong to an association of daily money managers, which I'll put in the show notes, how to get a hold of Cynthia, which I'll ask her in a second, but also I'll put the association in there in case you live in another location. And then, of course, you can call Cynthia because I think one of your clients is definitely out of town and you're just managing a lot of things on the ground here in the St. Louis area. But like all of us, we depend upon the professionals to do their job. And it takes a lot of communication and it takes working together with people. But you, as a senior, have the right to self-determination. And that's what Cynthia keeps saying. This is not her plan. This is your plan, but definitely knowing all the parts and pieces and where to access that information and how to help you be successful. That's what they're in business to do. So, how would somebody get a hold of you, Cynthia?
Well, we have a website. So
Okay.
it's www.bestlifedmm, as in daily money manager.com.
Okay.
There's a phone number. Yeah, I'm sure you'll put that in your notes, but for those people who are listening, it's 314-827-4466. And of course, email Cynthia at bestlifedmm.com, just like that. DMM, again, daily money manager. um there are multiple ways that they can call you and you could send this to us, but essentially we're one of the best places you can go to is the American Association of Daily Money Managers. Adam, we call it affectionately Adam. It's AADMM.com. And on that website, you will find access to daily money managers across the country. And I think some in Canada. And I believe there's a few overseas as well, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. But there's a search engine there. And you
Right.
can put your zip code in or the zip code of a friend or family member somewhere else in the country. You can find people that work 100% remote. Some people actually don't actually ever even go into their clients' homes. They do it all from their home. That's really not our model. We
It's
prefer
not
to
mine.
actually we like to go visit with people because we love hearing their stories. And believe
Right.
me, I have clients that have wonderful stories that I love to learn more about what they've done through their life. But anyway, that's how to get a hold of us. Um,
I
we
was going to ask, do you ever, in on the continuum side where I work with healthcare, sometimes we are asked to be a medical power of attorney or to at least consult with the person who is identified as that person. So is that something that you would do as well if they've identified a financial power of attorney, but they need boots on the ground here, or they would like some additional expertise? They could reach out to you
Yes.
because I know you
That
said.
is very much the case. We actually can be boots on the ground. Like, for example, our physician in New York, he has a conservatorship. He needs somebody to not only file that report, but we had to help him organize things here in St. Louis. And so we can be boots on the ground. We can also be a consultant for families who want to DIY. So they can do, and I think we were talking about this at one point. I love this financial advisor. He goes to his mother-in-law's home once a month
Oh,
once
yes.
every couple of weeks. I forget what he tells me, and he has dinner with her, which is lovely, and they do bills and pills. So, people like that, maybe something gets a little confusing, something gets a little dicey. They want some information. What do I do about this? We will do a consult, and we'll look through paperwork. We'll spend a couple of hours with them if they need that, helping them work through a problem, because all of what we do is really, we're there to help. We're there to help people get things done safely and securely. And like, you need a referral. If we have a consult with you and you need a referral source, we're going to do a little vetting. We're going to do a little figuring out, and then we'll get back to you with a referral source that we feel is a good source. And we
Ye-
we love referring things. And we love, people have all kinds of problems, and
Yes.
we'll find a good solution or help them find a good solution for
And,
those.
as you were talking, I was thinking about, there's always going to be that problem that, like you said, with that FSA account.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, or health savings, that all of a sudden he knew that you have this account, and now you've got somebody. And I think I'm playing the devil's advocate. And the one side I go, but I've got to pay for that. And what I'm saying to myself on the other side is that, you know what? You know how to do it. It's going to take you so much less time that it would take a rookie to do. So to me, that's a money saving tactic right there. And this is why you hire professionals. And I say this all the time in my podcast. Be prepared. That's so good because you have your planner, you have your lawyer, and then be prepared for the what ifs, the what's next, I might need this, or I'm tired of managing money. I've managed it my whole life. I really just need somebody to help me. Or maybe I do have things too spread out and I really need to bring this in house and keep it close and pare down. And now you've got a professional who you can pay that can make that so much easier than the time it's going to take you that is not the professional. So I appreciate you sharing what a daily money manager does, and specifically Best Life Advisors. I told Cynthia my listeners are sometimes caregivers. There's a lot of caregivers in this world, and I like to leave a caregiver tip at the end of every podcast. So, listeners, this is Cynthia's caregiver tip. I should go drum roll. You okay?
Well, and as you know, we've had a few clients pass away, and particularly I've been to two funerals in the last 2 days, and so that whole subject is top of mind for me right now. We always try to help our clients get their end of life plans in place before a crisis hits. And so my caregiver tip is, while you're not grieving and while you're not exhausted because you've been caring for a spouse or a family member,
Mm-hmm.
while those things are not taking your time and all of your energy, it's good to sit down with someone you love who, is older and is going to pass away at some point in time, and really talk about what is it they want after they're gone. Do they want a formal funeral and all that, or do they want a cremation? Do they want, what kind of burial do they want? What kind of service do they want? Who do they want obituaries to be filed with? You know, Thinking about those things before you're in crisis mode is really helpful. And actually, I have a young woman that we've worked with recently, and her mother actually just passed away, and we spent time helping her get all the obituaries sent out to all the places that she wanted. Some of them are paid obituaries, so we had to work out how to get those paid. But she didn't have to do all that at a moment when she's taking care of family. She's grieving the loss of her parent. She's got a busy life, and on top of everything else, now she has all of this going on. And she's
Yes.
very wise. She planned everything well in advance, down to the details, and down to giving us the obituary without the dates and all that, because she wanted to honor her parent, and she wanted it done in a way that she didn't have to be in the middle of it for all of that. We helped her make sure with the care manager that all of the things out of her parents' apartment, her parents' living space, were dealt with and respectfully, and the things she wanted brought to her home were brought there, and the things she wanted donated were donated. But she had worked all of those details out in advance, and I thought that was extremely wise. And now she's able to be with her family and grieve at
Yes.
a time when she's been caregiving for this parent for some time, and also dealing with her family's estate. And so
Mhm.
we've been walking alongside her with all those details. That's something, we can be a fiduciary for people. We have some clients that we actually function as fiduciaries,
Mhm.
but we don't necessarily want to do that. That's not our preference. We'd always like to have someone else making the decisions because that's a different insurance level for us.
Right.
She was a very busy mom, with a very busy life, and she's a caregiver with a complex situation. So we
Yes.
worked with her care manager and her to kind of pull all this stuff together well in advance of her mom's passing. And she can be at peace now with the fact that she's done everything she could for her mother.
Yes, and that is a wise woman working with another wise woman. And this wise woman is saying yes, yes, and yes. Because if you are in that role as caregiver, you know what we're talking about and the stress and emotional toll that it takes on you, your family, those around you, your job, if you're working. It's a lot. And I always say smart women know how to make smart decisions and to pull in the professionals that they need. So, Cynthia, thanks so much for being with us today on Aging in Place Strategies and Answers. And I do appreciate always your confidence and your great encouragement in what I'm trying to do here on my podcast.
Well, it is my pleasure. And thank you so much for the invitation. It's been a delight.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for joining me today. Please remember that this podcast is intended as education and not advice. Don't forget to share this podcast with family, friends, or colleagues who want to learn how to age in place, but also share this with those who find themselves in crisis mode. Please go to my website, seniorsupportstrategies.com, for more information. When you subscribe to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers, you gain access to premium content and professional tips on creating your own Aging in Place roadmap. As always, I value the time you spend with me.